Hello everyone, I am Pritesh Srivastava and welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to discuss a very important topic, that is dynamic type programming language and static type programming language. In our series of Python, we have already covered what is Anaconda, what is Python programming, and along with that, we have discussed what is identifiers and keywords. Now, our next topic is data types. But before data types, first we need to understand what are the types of programming languages which are there. Because without that, it is very difficult to understand the data types concept. So, how many types of programming languages are there with respect to type, with respect to data type? So basically, two types of programming languages are there. There are two types of programming languages. Okay, and focus this thing, it is with respect to type. Okay, so there are two types of programming languages. First is known as static typed programming language, and second type of programming language is known as dynamic typed programming language. So basically, these are the two types of programming languages which are there. That is your static typed and dynamic type programming language. Now, before understanding what is static typed and what is dynamic type, first we need to understand how the execution of our program is going on. For example, if we are writing our code, so in what way your program or your code is going to be executed in our computers? That thing we need to understand. So let's take one simple sample example. Suppose that I have created some Python file. This is my Python file which we have created. Okay, so here I am writing few instructions like a is equal to 10, b is equal to 20, and something like c is equal to a plus b. A dummy code I am taking here, a plus, or you can say print c. Okay, so this is a dummy code we have written. Now, how the execution of this code will be done? How the execution of this code will be done? So remember this thing, whatever code we are writing, first that code will be translated into machine code. And who will do this thing? Our compilers will do this thing. Our compilers will do this thing. So here we are having compilers. And what compiler will do? Compiler will generate or translate high level code. What is your high level code? Your English code. Whatever code you are writing, that is known as high level code, to bytecode. In case of Python, it is bytecode, or in the other programming language, it is also known as machine code. Machine code. Now, suppose that you have passed your Python script into your compiler and your code has been generated. Your machine code has been generated. Now, who will execute this code? So for that, there is a second phase which is there, and this is very, very important. First phase is we are going to compile our code, and in this compilation, we are translating our code. Only the translation will be done, not the execution. So compilers are useful for translating our high level code to machine code. Now here we are having machine code or byte. Now who will execute this machine? So for this, there is one more concept with respect to Python is there, that is known as PVM, Python Virtual Machine. And which type of environment it is? This is known as compile time. This is known as compile time because your code is going to be translated. And this is known as runtime. Here your code is going to be executed. Okay, so which thing, like what is the thing which is going on here? Whatever byte code you are having at this point, that byte code will be passed here. And this is nothing but with respect to Python, it is PVM, Python Virtual Machine. So Python Virtual Machine will execute your. So at the runtime phase, your code will be executed. Your code will be executed. Executed. Now, this is a complete flow how your Python program is going to be executed. First, we are creating our simple Python file, and that Python file will be run in compilers. And what compiler will do? Compiler will simply generate a byte code for you. It is nothing but a byte code which is there. So byte code is similar to machine code, and that machine code will be executed by our Python virtual machine, that is the PVM, Python virtual machine, and it will be done at the runtime phase. So basically two phases are there for compilation and execution. Our first phase is known as compilation phase and second phase is known as runtime phase or execution phase. So in this way, your code is going to be executed. Now coming to the types of programming language. So basically two types of programming languages are there, static typed and dynamic typed. Now what is the static typed and what is dynamic typed? So if you can see static typed, okay, in case of a static type programming language, in case of static type programming language, static type programming language, the type checking will be performed at the compile time, at the compile time. So whatever code you are writing, and in that code you are giving some data type. So where that data type will be checked? That data type will be checked in this phase. That is your compilation phase. In this compilation phase, your data type is going to be checked. Now, what is the advantage of using this static type? The advantage of using this static type is we cannot perform any changes. Once you are creating a variable, you cannot perform changes in that. Once you are creating a variable, then you cannot perform changes in that. So with static typed, variables generally are not allowed to change the type. So that means whatever code you are writing, you need to give your data type here itself. And where this data type will be checked? This data type will be checked in the compilation phase. So here at the compilation phase, we need to provide the data type and here your data type will be checked. For example, or in other words, what I can say is in case of a static type programming language, in case of a static typed programming language, we as a programmer are responsible to provide the data type of any data. We as a programmer needs to provide the data type of any data. Whatever data you are using, first you need to mention this thing, that what is the data type of that. What is the reason behind this? Because in static type, the data type will be checked. At the compilation phase. That means whatever code you are writing, whatever data types you are using, that data types will be checked where? At the compilation phase. Here itself your data type will be checked. So that is your static typed programming language. So if I can tell you few examples of this, examples of static typed programming language. So our C language, C++ and Java, all are static type programming language. So in case of a static type programming language, it is very important to give the data type. Before using any data, you need to mention which kind of data type it is. And once you are giving the data type, you cannot perform any changes in that. Let me take one example. Okay, I am going to open Java compiler. Okay, here, let's see. This is my Java compiler, like online compiler I have used here. What I will do, first I will write a string A. That means I am going to create one variable A. Now what is the type here? The type here is what? A string type. So before using any data, here I am writing my name. Now before using this data, I am writing a string. What is the meaning of this? Before using this data, we are defining this thing, that what is the type of this data. That is the meaning of static type. So in a case of a static type, what we need to do? We need to provide the data type before using it. Okay, so after this, if I can see the value of a, whether a value is there or not, see. Okay, now it is giving some error because a string is in double quotation. Sorry, the string is in double quotation. That is a mistake. A colon is missing. Sorry. See, we are getting it. Now, in the next point, what I mentioned, if any programming language is static typed, we cannot perform any changes in that. What is the meaning of this? At the first point, what I have mentioned, what is the type of string? What is the type of a variable? The type of a variable is a string type. Now I am going to change the type, int a. So is it possible? Can I do this thing? Is it possible? Can I do this thing? The answer is no, we cannot do this thing because string A, you have already created a variable, and what is the type of that variable? It is a string type. So you cannot perform any changes in this. This A variable is of a string type only. You cannot change it to integer. If I am going to run like this, see what we are getting. We are getting an error. And what is an error? Variable A is already defined in main method. That means your variable A is of string type. Then how you are trying to change a variable to integer type? Because it is a static typed programming language. So in other words, if you can say that in static typed, before creating any variable, we need to mention which kind of data type is stored in that, which kind of data type is stored in that variable. Maybe it is int. And second point, which is important, in a static typed variables, or in static typed, we cannot, once we are creating any variable, for any data type, we cannot change that data type. Later for the same variable. That is the meaning of static type. So if you can see this example, easily you can understand this thing. Once I have created a is equal to string a is of which type? A is of a string type. Then I am trying to change it to what? Integer. This is not possible because Java is a static typed programming language. So this is your static type programming language. So in simple story, if I can say what is a static type, static type programming languages are those programming languages in which we as a programmer are responsible to provide the data types. First thing. Second thing is, after creating any variable for a specific data type, we cannot change the data type of that variable again. We cannot perform the changes. And third point is, static type programming language will check the type at which time? At the compilation time. At this time it will check. So this is your static type. Same as it is if I am talking about dynamic type programming language. Dynamic type programming language. Now, in case of dynamic type programming language, the type checking will be done. In runtime phase. What is the meaning of this? When we are talking about static type, your type checking is going on in this compilation phase. But coming to the dynamic type, in case of dynamic type, your type checking will be done here. Okay, and in static type, your type checking is going to be done at this point. Okay, so that is a thing which is there. Now, next point is, in case of a static type programming language, in case of a static type programming language, we as a programmer no need to provide the data type of the data which we are using. So in this programming language, see here, in a static type, if you want to write any data, you need to write int a is equal to 10. What is the meaning of this? A variable of which type? It is of integer type. So before creating any variable, first we need to mention which kind of data type is there for this variable. But in case of dynamic type, no need to mention anything like this. You can directly write a is equal to 10. Now, where this type checking will be done? At the runtime. Here it will be checked. At the runtime, when your code is going to be executed, at that moment it will check this thing. Okay. So in case of a static type, not a static type, it is dynamic type. In case of dynamic type programming language, we as a programmer no need to provide the data type of data which we are using in our program. First point. And second point, which is very important here, is in case of dynamic programming, or dynamic typed programming, we can change the type, we can change the variable value again and again. It's up to us. So when we are talking about a static type, so if I am writing a is equal to 10, so what is the type of it? It is of integer. So if I am going to check what is the type of it, we will get something like integer. After this, I am writing a is equal to something like my name. And then I am going to check what is the type of it. So now in other programming language, if you are defining any data type before, then you cannot perform any changes. But in dynamic type, we need not to mention the data type. And if we need not to mention the data type, you can give any data type for the same variable as well. No any issues there. You can use that variable again and again. See, for the first time, what is the type? It is of integer type. Then next type, what is the type? It is a string type, because all these things are going to be done in this phase. That is your runtime phase, not at the compilation phase. At the runtime phase, this is going to be happen. Now, what are the programming languages which are dynamic type? Programming languages. Okay, what are the programming languages are dynamic type? So you can see your Perl, your Python is a dynamic type programming language. Your PHP is a dynamic type programming language. Your JavaScript is a dynamic type programming language. All these programming languages are dynamic type programming language. And if any programming language is dynamic type, then we as a programmer no need to give the type of the data that you are using. Directly you can use that thing. So here you can see I have used a is equal to 10. It will work. No any issues there. Even I have not mentioned the data type, but still it will work. So that is the meaning of static type and dynamic type. So in summarized way, if I can say, is in case of a static type, before creating any variable, our first objective is to just provide which kind of data type is there for that particular variable. And once you are giving the data type, you cannot later change that data type for that variable. But in case of dynamic type, you can create your variable and number same variable you can use for any type of data. Because at the beginning, we are not providing which kind of data we are using here, which kind of data type we are using for a particular variable. So this is the story. And next important point is your static type will be checked. Whatever type checking is there for static type, that will be done in compilation phase. Same as it is coming to the dynamic type, your dynamic type checking will be done in runtime phase. So this is a very, very important interview question as well. So in our Python series, our next topic that we are going to deal with is data types. So Python is a dynamic type programming language. So in Python, we need not to mention the data types. We can directly use the variables. We can directly use the value. We can directly use the data. We can directly use the variable. We need not to provide the data type because Python is a dynamic typed programming language. Dynamic type programming language. So this is all about this video. In this video, we have discussed what is static type, what is dynamic type programming language. Okay. So I hope you like the video. If you are having any doubt, please feel free to comment on this video. We will discuss all those things and I will try to reply each and everyone. Please like, subscribe our channel and also put your valuable feedback in the comment section. Thanks everyone.